Hello, welcome to this week's vlog. Now, this is a little bit of a controversial title, so stay with me. My title for today is How to Stop Being So Bipolar in Your Singing. Right, so let me explain what I mean. To be bipolar in our singing is assuming that we are literally living from one extreme to the other. Now, we do that both psychologically and we do it both physically without even realizing it. So there's a kind of innocence. We're not meaning to be so extreme about things and have our highs feeling like stratospheric and the next minute we're feeling in the depths of despair. And unfortunately for creative people, being a little bit melancholy and bipolar seems to almost go along with the territory. But I am going to actually I'm going to just kind of rip through that a little bit and say that that is not how we are created to do this. It's not even how the voice functions. The voice really does function under, the laws of physics. Just like our hearts beat and our livers function, the voice and the body it functions pretty naturally in this system of the body. We can't tell our vocal folds how far to stretch to sing an A above middle C or a G below that. The brain isn't consciously aware of how to do that. So our fundamental makeup of musicianship is innately built in, just like your cuts heal when you've got a cut and the body deals with that, and just how the body is dealing with your heart, your liver, your lungs, etc. It deals with your ability to vibrate, create sound, and to change that pitch, and it does it by neurology. Okay, so that's our subconscious area. And now what consciously that we can be in control of in this is the understanding of how to work that skillfully. In the hands of a carpenter, a master carpenter, a piece of wood can turn into a whole amazing bespoke set of furniture or incredible mansion house. In the hands of somebody that doesn't know how to handle the wood or the chisel or the hammer, it really doesn't matter if we've got a hammer or a chisel, we're still not going to end up with the mansion or the beautiful set of furniture at the end of it. So our skill and our understanding of how to use our instrument, and not just the way that the instrument works, which is really the role of science. It looks at good singing, good singers, and how the voice operates. So it looks at the function of that or the processes around that. And we need that research. For us as singers, our psychological makeup, though, unfortunately, depends on, first of all, how we feel about what's going on. Whether we have any particular dreams or aspirations, and how far our futuristic timeline of getting that to happen works. And at the same time, if we haven't learned to have some skill or some understanding around the system of what we do to work it and how we understand that, then we are literally like, a carpenter or somebody that wants to be a carpenter with the right tools and the right material in front of us, but no skill in order how to actually create what we want to out of it. Okay, so if we've got that skill, if we understand how to work the mechanism better, and we understand which bits to work and not in our call like a sing by numbers step, where we're just trying to move things by numbers. The thing works in a much more holistic whole. I hope you realise that. But if we work that understanding, we can start to understand how to shape our voice for different genres of music, for different types of sound that we want to create, and realise that for me, I realised that the voice was like plasticine, or it was like my ability as a carpenter to be able to chisel away at that piece of wood and to create an numerous amount of amazing structures and types of, product out of it, just because I knew how to work the hammer, the chisel, and I knew how the wood worked. And that was the difference. So there is an art and there is a science to singing. So how not to be bipolar about your singing is, first of all, to recognise if you are falling into a really innocent psychological trap here, and looking, and feeling bad depending on what the results are. Because we do it in practice. One of the ways that we do it in practice is that something isn't working very well. We think that we something, you know, we try for a high note, it doesn't seem to come out in the same way we want, a bit squeaky, a bit squawky, etc. And then the next minute, guess what we do? We go, right, that didn't work, I'll try harder, I'll go faster. And we use this go faster, try harder approach so much of the time. So that is kind of like going to the bipolar extreme. I'm going to try and sort the problem by going harder and faster at it. When you and I both can see that the misunderstanding around that is that we didn't actually know what the problem was in order to decide if going harder and faster was actually the right approach. Might be, but it might not be. On the other extreme, we go for something, it doesn't work very well, and we just kind of do a collapse. And we go, oh, well, I can't do it then. And that's just like shifting the bipolar all the other way on our psychology. And we're going, okay, so it must be me then, I'll give up. Or I'll look for another approach, I'll look for another teacher, I'll look for another method, I'll look for another this. So we then innocently are falling into this bipolar approach to learning. The one thing that I have understood while I have watched hundreds of singers go through the learning process, myself included, relearning voice, you know, having a voice that doesn't work and then learning to make, you know, to get those things working in place, there was some fundamental principles that started to become evident to me. And there is a form of psychology out there called the 3 principles. Feel free to go and have a look at it. I was talking about things like 3 principles of singing before I knew that existed. So there is no, there's no direct association in what I'm going to say, but there is maybe a sort of synergy understanding here. And the 3 principles of singing are pitch, positioning, and power. Now, it doesn't matter which method of singing you've studied or that you're studying. It doesn't matter whether you're coming from studying classical bel canto or music theatre and you've gone to a college and you're looking at a still method, etc. It doesn't matter whether you've come through more contemporary routes and studied, speech level singing, IVA, different routes like that. It really doesn't matter what method, if you understand that, or if you've come from no method at all and you're just singing and that doesn't, even those words don't make it anything to you. It really doesn't matter. There are fundamental principles on how we create and balance sound and create the tone that we're trying to come out with. And they are managed a bit more for me like a triangle. If we've got pitch at the top, the 2 other variables at the bottom are power and positioning. So how does that work out in practice? If I'm singing, if I'm trying to sing high, okay, if I can feel, I can feel that the tone has changed, I can feel there's some constriction coming in, I may not understand what the heck's going on, my brain has gone bipolar and it's thinking, why can't I reach the high notes? As if the high notes are outside of me and they require some major effort to get to them, because of course it didn't feel like I had major effort at the bottom. It requires some fundamental understanding about how the shaping of that sound on the inside out helps you to make the necessary changes to move from bottom to top. So for positioning, for me to stop doing this, for me to stop doing that, or even just flipping off and not and just collapsing up there, for me to be forcing or to collapsing, that's a bipolar approach to this, okay? For me to find my way this way, even there I'm kind of feeling for balance of tone going from top to bottom. So if I can't make my way from top to bottom, okay, then there's some fundamental things about how I position my tongue, the sound, my lips, the vowel, the feeling of the sound of that, and the amount of power or effort required to have that work. There's something fundamental I'm not understanding and seeing if I cannot go all the way up and all the way down in my voice and it have a pretty fairly even balanced tone. There's always a little, there's no perfect, 80% is good enough, but that's why we're looking at this. So bipolar approach would say, I'm not getting that, I'll just push it higher or I'll just collapse. And it's because we're not understanding that the consistent approach is to understand something fundamentally different, is that we are the shaper and the creator of that sound from the inside out, and that you can actually have and understand what it is for you to actually move your voice into those particular positions that create that sound. No more do you have to be at the beck and call of your feelings around this. In other words, I'll practice because I feel like it. I don't feel like I can't find time today. We're pulling the time card. I can't find time today. Generally, generally, the time card is pulled because there is confusion, and there is misunderstanding, and there is a bipolar psychological effect to when we're in the practice room doing something, when we're not quite sure how to get the results, and bipolar behavior doesn't work anymore, that we don't understand some fundamental approach to principles and consistency. Consistency of practice and understanding what we're practicing in order to get results and to experiment with that, and principles that we're not seeing, that actually this is not about forcing the sound out or dropping back away from any energy that's required to actually make a sound in the first place, but it is understanding that we are psychologically innocently making some wrong assumptions here about how to get this sound that you're trying to create. So first of all, I'm a big believer in exercises for the voice. Total big believer in exercises, because I know I know that the thing about songs is, if songs were written to actually shape your voice, we wouldn't need to exercise, okay? If we could all just get up tomorrow and run a marathon, who'd need to bother to train the body to actually cope with the rigours of it? Okay? John Mayer had to have 6 months off singing and 2 months off talking when he had vocal surgery. And that is the result of wear and tear and not understanding how to run a marathon with your voice long term. Doesn't matter the talent, doesn't matter the skill of the songwriter and the human being, not fundamentally understanding how to save our voice or to actually learn how to train for a marathon as opposed to a walk around the park. It's going to make a big difference to what you do or what you're able to do with your singing. So if you are finding that you've got a bit of a bipolar approach going on here, and you've been blaming yourself for just being rubbish, or it's, you need to kind of like, you promised to do it in the new year, but you never do, it just keeps dropping off the table. If that's what you find is happening for you, then please come and join the free online singing school Facebook group, or reach out to me for a conversation, so that I can do. I've got some great ways for you to actually get some understanding around this. Some are paid, some are free. So all you need to do is take the step and go, oh my God, yeah, I have been doing a bit of a bipolar here. I haven't recognised I've been doing this. And actually, you might find that there's only 1 or 2 tweaks and steps that starts to get you to move both your positioning and your power. Or if you're struggling with your pitch, there's these 3 elements that we're always looking at. And the thing about those is they're going to relate to the different genre of music. If I was singing classical, I'm going to have a different type of sound and a different type of shape to create those sounds. If I'm singing contemporary music, I'm going to have a different level of vocal cord vibration, and I'm going to have a different kind of approach to it. There's no way around that. It is not just one size fits all. It's one voice, but it's many approaches. And that depends on the genre. So for people that want to swap from one genre to another, they can encounter issues where the muscles are simply used to being in one place for doing one type of music, and we need to learn to rebalance and re-embody a different set of feelings and a different set of understandings around what that type of music requires us to do with our voice. All completely possible, except that if we are not in the game of that consistent game, regardless of feelings of voice skill and learning and really understanding actually how to learn properly. And the biggest thing why we just don't learn properly is that when we were at school, we were waiting for somebody to just tell us what to write off the blackboard. We wrote it, we did an exam, we hardly paid attention to it, we moved on, we forgot it. It was never embodied in us. And yet the thing about singing is there is no way for you to actually sing really in the way that you want to, with full freedom and expression, with great tone and confidence. There's no way for you to do that unless you embody something, which is why I'm always saying that singing is an inside out job. It doesn't mean that we sit there on a toadstool and look at all the psychology, and it doesn't mean that we only ever look at the physiology of singing and we pay no attention to the fact that our thought is taking us off track or out of the game all the time. It is the art and the science of understanding how to get the best out of your voice, how to get the best out of the music, how to musically look at that music, sometimes to learn how the music language works. Sometimes it's theory, sometimes it's sight singing, sometimes it's understanding how to be expressive with our acting, etc. There are many layers to being a great singer with expressiveness, and there is no reason why you can't find your level of expressiveness and fun and joy and singing being an absolute pleasure for you, but with choirs, or with taking your first solo steps, or with taking your bigger leaps into making a record or an album, or even if you are just an absolute beginner and you're wanting to find this mechanism, this instrument inside of you. Everybody is going to be starting this at a different stage, but the key is you won't ever finish the game. You won't ever see the best what you're possibly capable of doing, or enjoying it to its full degree, if we've got a bipolar approach to practice, or to an understanding that we just need to really learn how to sit down with somebody or with a course, with a program, and actually learn it. Okay, and that's what the members of the Academy do. That's what I do with my students. That's what other teachers around the world do with theirs. It's about understanding, and it's about coming away from the bipolar approach to doing things, and to learn how to consistently put one goal in front of it for the type of music that you're wanting to do, and learn how to sit in that, how to make the right adjustments. And then once you've got that skill, you can take the next mini challenge and the next mini challenge, and before you know it, you have an exponentially more free, more expressive, more skillful voice that you can start singing a variety of music with, without strain, stress, or strutting off at the same time. So that's what I want to say to you today. If that resonates with you, please post me a comment, email me back at angela@angeladurrant.com, angela@angeladurrant.com, and tell me about your, if this resonates for you. I would love to hear from you and help you out of that situation and on to better singing.